Welcome back to the Death Metal Disco podcast. I am the host, your host, James. You can call me James, you can call me Jay, you can call me Daddy. Don't call me Jim. And only actually two people are allowed to call me Jamesy. And I don't even think they listen to this podcast, so that's cool. That's what I have to say about that. Anyway, Happy New Year. I hope New Year's Eve was uneventful in a bad way, like nothing bad happened. I hope it was good. I hope that you did whatever you did safely and joyfully. Joyfully, as we said, fuck off to 2020 and welcomed in 2021 with hopefully a slightly more positive and optimistic outlook. Whether or not it's going to do us any good to have done so is up for debate, but I'm hoping that we did. I know I did. I tried to. I spent New Year's Eve most of the afternoon and the whole night up until just after midnight with my friends, a couple of friends at their house and their family, and we had a good time, ate some good food. We watched the new Wonder Woman 1984, and I'm not one to do film reviews. I don't consider myself a good source for film reviews. I do, however, have opinions about them, and after reading all of the shit about the new Wonder Woman, I didn't have any desire to watch it. I loved the first one. I thought the first one had a fantastic story. I thought the acting was good. I thought the humor was great. I thought Gal Gadot did a really, really good job of portraying somebody who came from their normal element into the real world at that time and having to adjust. I thought she did it in an adorably realistic manner. And when you look at the first Wonder Woman and compare it to the other DC movies that have come out up to that point, it blew them out of the water. And on its own, it's my favorite DC movie. And I think it set the bar very high, which is probably why a lot of people are trashing Wonder Woman 1984, because it's nowhere near as good. Nowhere near as good. That being said, Wonder Woman 1984, I didn't think was horrible. I didn't think it was great. Good might even be stretching it. But I didn't hate it. And there's a lot of movies out there that I've seen that I really, really would never recommend to anybody. This one is not one of those. I would actually say, hey, if you got kids or whatever and you're into it, watch it. It couldn't hurt to watch it. It's not going to ruin your life. You're not going to, maybe you won't feel like you got something out of the 2.5 hours, but really, I think it's worth a watch. The acting and the dialogue is not so good. Not so good at all. There's definitely some plot points that I didn't really think they should get into, but they did. And according to the Twitter, which we all know is the be-all, end-all for news and realistic situations, they fucked up on some things. Not going to get into those. You can Google those yourself. But I do think that they did a decent job with continuing the story. There were some things that I didn't remember from comics because I'm not a big comic book guy anyway, so a lot of the stuff that happens in these comic book movies I don't necessarily understand anyway, so I do end up having to Google a lot of the information to find out what I want to know. There's things that they introduced that people are in an uproar about, and they actually do belong in the comics. So Google is wonderful. This is not a sponsored podcast by Google, although if they wanted to sponsor me, that'd be super cool. I could go for a huge sponsor like that. Really, I can go for any sponsors that I use. So if you're listening and you happen to have something you want to have sponsored on the podcast, fuck yeah, hit me up. Let's do this. Let's make it happen. I am good with that. Unless your product sucks, or I don't think it's something that should be in existence, which is probably a rarity, so whatever. You know the drill. Find me. Sorry about that. I don't know how I devolved into a, let's make a deal situation, but I did, so it is what it is. Anyway, Wonder Woman 1984, not fantastic by any stretch. I think it falls in line with a lot of the other DC movies that have happened. Has its entertainment aspect. but wouldn't be something I consider really good. Unlike a lot of the stuff in Marvel, which I'm a fan of, but and comparing it to the first Wonder Woman, no contest. It's garbage compared to the first Wonder Woman. So that's a bummer, but it did well enough in the Corona age that they already got it ready to roll for a third one. So with any luck, they can bring it back and at least make it better than the second one. Hopefully, as good as the first. And while I'm talking about movies, which, as you all know, I don't really plan these things out all that much, all that well. I did watch another movie that we actually saw at one of the film festivals back in October. I don't remember exactly which film festival it was. We did the Overlook. We did the Telluride Horror Show and the Mile High Horror Film Festival. And this one was one of those, and I cannot remember which one, so forgive me for that. It came out on digital, on Vudu, maybe a month ago, right around Thanksgiving, sometime in November. It's called Survival Skills, and it is I don't know that I'd call it a horror per se, definitely dark comedy, dark comedy rooted in realism, and it's about a new police officer, and it's supposed to be a training movie for new police recruits using this police officer's first year on the job experience. And it's dark, but it's weirdly entertaining and funny. It's one of those movies that you can watch, and the way it's shot, you're like, is this really how I'm going to be watching it? That'll come up. It's shot in a way like the first two acts are done in like a 35 millimeter VHS setup. So it even looks like a shitty VHS tape where you have to adjust the tracking. And for those of you who are too young to know what VHS tapes and VCRs and tracking are, consult your parents. But it looks like it's done on a shitty VHS tape, and the tracking is fucked up on that tape the whole time. It's done in such a way that you're entertained, confused, and horrified all at the same time. And as you're watching it, it's one where you have to ask whoever you're with, or if you're by yourself, what the fuck am I watching? Kind of like the first time I saw Napoleon Dynamite. I'd heard many good things about it, and I had rented it, and I was watching it, and I kept waiting for it to get better, and for something to make it seem like, oh, that's what all the people are talking about. And it never did. But now I think Napoleon Dynamite is amazing. Like, it's its own weird thing. This kind of has that same vibe, not nearly in the same theme or any of that, but kind of that same what the fuck is happening type of movie. Stacy Keach plays a narrator, and he's basically narrating the training tape for the new recruits officers. And hey, we're gonna follow Jim, this officer that we just created, who's first year on the job. And when we follow Jim, we see his interaction with a seasoned, grizzled veteran officer who is his training officer, and other various officers within the department, and then the types of calls they handle and how it can take an emotional and mental toll on the officers that respond to certain things like domestic violence and thefts and whatever. But I have a lot of law enforcement friends, and I think all of them should watch it and just see how they relate to it. I was never an officer. I worked as a dispatcher for a long time, and I have a lot of officer friends, and the stuff that they portray in this movie, as darkly funny as it's supposed to be, I think is also very colored with realism. And I'd be interested to see if any of my officer friends do watch it. And if you're listening to this and you do watch Survival Skills, let me know. Let me know your opinion on it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? How realistic to you in your experiences is it? It doesn't paint officers in the greatest of lights, but it doesn't also color them in such a way that they look like complete buffoons. Sort of does, but not really. I mean, it's one of those, it's a movie about a real life thing. And I would be interested to see how people who have the experience, who are in that world, actually relate to it. So if you do see it, and you feel like sharing, hit me up. You know where to find me. Facebook, Twitter, at Death Metal Disco, at Death Disco Pod on Twitter, and the Death Metal Disco Podcast on Facebook. Or you can hit me up. You can message me through Spotify via anchor.fm, any of those things. So that's really all I've been watching as far as movies go. 2 movies in at least the last 2 weeks. Not a great number, but I've been rewatching House. House is one of my favorite TV shows. I absolutely love it. This is probably my 5th or 6th time going through the whole series. I'm almost done. I'm halfway through season 6 now. There's only 8. I love it. I miss it. It was a great show. I have 1,800 other shows on my list that I need to watch now between Hulu and Amazon Prime, Netflix. I think there's another one that I'm forgetting. Oh, Disney Plus. I want to start The Mandalorian. I'll get to that probably right after I finish House, but that's what I've been doing with my life. Super, super fun times. I've also been working out some goals to work towards for the voiceover job. Some of you might know I got started in voiceover a few years ago, got some training, got a demo. Haven't really done my part to apply myself in that world, and therefore my experience and jobs from that is lacking. And I chose a shitty time to try and get off the pot and make it happen, because now everybody is diving into it since people are losing their jobs, having to work from home. They hear it's the easiest thing in the world. It's really not. But I need to step my game up, and I know what I need to do. I just need to do it. So laying out a detailed list of goals and steps to achieve these goals is on my to-do list for the beginning of the year. And hopefully I can make something come of it. I just have to do the work. And that's what a lot of people say is you can talk a big game, but you got to do the work. And that's the part that I always fuck up, is doing the work. And anybody running a business of really any kind, whether it's, you own your own company doing yard work, or you're an accountant, free agent accountant, or whatever, you can't get the jobs until people know you exist. So you got to put yourself out there. And beginning voiceover is like 90% marketing, 10% action. Get the job, now you work, but then you're always marketing. And that's the part that I suck at. So working on that. I got steps lined out, ready to roll. Must apply. So you've been listening to me ramble on for quite some time about this, that, and the other. So allow me to ramble on briefly about how I operate this podcast. There's lots of options for how you want to post and host your podcast and put it out into the world. I did a lot of research on mine, and for me, I decided to go with anchor.fm. If you haven't heard of Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's free. That was a big selling point to me. Free is good. I like free. There's also tools for creation to help you record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer or your tablet or whatever you're using. I find that to be effective. So we got free, we got recording and editing, both big deals, because they are. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you. So it can be heard on Spotify, it could be heard on Apple Podcasts, it could be heard on Google Podcasts, and many, many more. That is a huge time saver because I don't have to go to each of those things to upload. So I like that distribution right then and there. And again, it's free. You can make money from your podcast, if you're into that kind of thing, with no minimum listenership. That could be cool. I think you should try it. It's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. So if you've been on the fence about making a podcast and the only thing holding you back is how you want to host it or create it or whatever, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's worth it. So, as I was thinking of things to talk about for this episode, it dawned on me, it's been a very long time since I've been to a live music performance of any kind. At the beginning of last year, I was all fucked up. There were a couple shows I was supposed to go to and physically did not feel up to them, which is a bummer. And then everything went to shit with the Rona. So I've been thinking about things I miss a lot. And going to concerts is at the top of the list, probably. Going to concerts was my biggest social interaction outside of the occasional dinner party or house party for whatever. Going to concerts is my biggest social interaction of any kind. Playing concerts, going to concerts, mostly going. My band doesn't really play a lot of shows. I do miss that too, obviously, but going to shows, I think, for me, I like going to shows more than I like playing shows. Playing shows is awesome. Going to shows is a little more cool. You don't have to do any work. Get to chill, see other bands, hear other bands, meet people, see people you don't always see in your normal circle, or maybe you do, depending on where you live, what kind of band you're in, blah, blah, blah. But I miss going to shows. I've been to a lot of shows over the years, big venues, small venues, big bands, smaller bands, small bands at big venues, big bands at small venues, all of those things. I've gone to a lot of fucking shows, which a lot of people that I know, given that we're a lot of metalheads, have also gone to a lot of shows. Some of them have gone internationally to shows and festivals and stuff like that. I haven't done any of that yet, but, that's on my to-do list if I ever can. It doesn't rank super high up there, but something I want to do. Supposed to go to Montreal to check out a show back in May, but we all know what happened with that. And one time I went down to see my mom in Atlanta a few years ago, and Soilwork and Soulfly just happened to be playing. I forget the name of the venue now. Really cool 4-level venue in downtown Atlanta, and that was cool. Went to that, didn't know anybody, and I think the bartender knew I was not from around town, so she actually hooked it up really cool. Got me pretty lit, and she was very, very cute, so that didn't hurt. But I haven't done any shows internationally or even out of other states, other than shows I've played out of state. But I need to make that a thing when shows come back, if they do. And thinking back about it now, I don't even know what the last show I went to before everything hit the fan was. I think it was actually a show we played. I want to say we played Herman's Hideaway. That might be wrong. It was something in December of 2019, and I think it was Herman's Hideaway. And that was a fun show. It was us, Angelic Desolation, and I can't for the life of me remember the other bands. Not a lot of people were there. Weather wasn't great. It was right before Christmas. I want to say the week before Christmas, which I've been doing the local music scene for 20 years now, and anything around Christmas is always kind of sketchy. Nobody really wants to show up. Small groups of people might show up, but really, unless you're a huge tour, it's hard to get people to come to those things right before Christmas because family's in town, or you're out of town. It just is a little more difficult. But since I'm talking about shows, this always seems to come up. I'm sorry if I'm adjusting my microphone if it sounds weird on your end. Since I'm talking about shows, tell me what your first show was, or your most favorite show that you've been to, or if you're in a band, your favorite show that you played. Tell me what they were. My first show ever, my first concert of any kind that wasn't, school band of some sort, was Ozfest 1997. It was at the old Mile High Stadium. Not the new, whatever it's called now, the old one. It was me and my sister. Doors were at 10 a.m. And we weren't allowed to bring anything in other than unopened bottles of water, which we each had pretty big bottles of water, but we got in line really fucking early because we're retarded. Mostly me, since it was my decision. And we drank those before the doors even opened. And then we didn't have a lot of money, and it was just a day of sunburn and dehydration, but it was a really good time. I had a fan-fucking-tastic time at Ozfest. I went mostly because I wanted to see Fear Factory, Typo Negative, Marilyn Manson, Ozzy, Black Sabbath were headlining. Fantastic fucking show. Just a fantastic show. Got to see some bands for the first time. Cold Chamber. Lots of bands for the first time, actually. Machine Head. That might be the only time I've actually seen Machine Head, but it was a great show. But I don't know if it definitely wasn't my favorite show ever. I don't know if I could pick a favorite show that I've actually been to. Now, shows that I've played, I've played a lot of shows, and that's a hard one too. But I gotta say, the show that I remember at least having the most fun of at the time was in 2005, I think it was. Maybe 2006. I want to say it was 2005, but when I was in the Mandrake, we played in Grand Junction, Colorado at the Mesa Theater. and we played with a band called Exusum, and there were 2 other bands. I don't remember at all who they fucking were, and it bums me out. I used to remember all that shit, but I just don't remember it anymore. That was probably, I would say that's probably my favorite show that I've ever played. I've played some fucking amazing shows, but that one always sticks out to me. And I think it might just be because that was the first time I ever got to sign a pair of lady boobs. And you always remember your first. I remember exactly what they were. I was the last person to sign them, though, so whatever. It's always weird when people ask you to sign stuff anyway. It's just a weird feeling. It's cool. It's very flattering, very humbling. But it's even weirder when it's their body parts. So anyway, I don't know if that girl has any idea who I am now, or if she listens to this, but if you're listening and you had me sign your boobs, thank you. You are not forgotten. I can't say that I remember exactly her face, but I think she had one. So I got to say, as far as things getting back to normal, I mean, really, I miss going to shows. I miss going to movies. I miss going out to eat. It's one thing when, even if you're socially distancing, if you do decide to get together with people, you used to be able to say, hey, let's go get dinner, or let's go get some drinks or something. Wear your masks, go get seated, take off your mask at the table, have a jovial time. Everybody's happy, go home, everything's good. But now that we're in semi lockdown mode again, you can go and get food and then take it to go. That's just not as good, and unless they want you to come back to their house or you bring them over to yours. Not the same as going out and getting food with somebody. So I do miss that, and I dine out a lot. I'm used to it. I'm always alone anyway. So a lot of times it's for work. A lot of times I'm home by myself, and I'll just go out to get some food. So I miss that too. And I know I'm kind of all over the place with what I'm talking about right now. Back to the shows. I know a lot of people that are listening are into music, whether it be local music or, big bands, or, not like big bands like jazz big bands, although, more power to you. I love the big band era of jazz. That shit, that's my jam. I really do love that shit. But I'm talking about like big national, international acts. If you have a favorite show that you've been to, or a show that you've played, or a venue that you've played, what was it? Let me know what it was. Tell me, drop a comment, leave a review. Don't leave a review with that. That's kind of weird. But hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on Facebook if you want to. At Death Disco Pod on Twitter. Death Metal Disco Podcast on Facebook. Tell me what your favorite show was, or your first show. I know it's hard to choose a favorite, but it should be easy to pick out your first. I would hope. Unless you're just too fucked up and you don't remember, which I know some people that probably have that issue. So, no judgment. And one final thing before I close this out, and this is a shorter episode. I want to start interviewing people or bringing people on as co-hosts. I got a couple people in mind. I haven't approached them yet to see if they're interested in doing it, just to start with. But if you have anybody in mind that you think would be cool for me to talk with or interview, hit me up. Let me know. Let me know on social media. Message me, text me, whatever. With your suggestions, I will take all of those into consideration. And as long as it's somebody I can actually make contact with, and if they're interested, we'll go from there. But I got a couple of people I'm going to probably make that happen at least once this month and see what's up. Don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I got ideas. So we'll work that out. But I really would love to interact with you. I thank you guys for listening all the time. I check every day and I see that, the plays are going up, and that's cool. Like, I'm not doing this because I want the attention or anything. It's just cool that people actually take the time to listen to me ramble and, try to follow along with whatever bullshit I'm spouting out, which is a lot of bullshit. So, yeah, if you have somebody that you want to have on this show, or if you want to be on the show, let me know. We'll figure it out, and we'll decide, if it's something you want to do. Hey, do you want this to be an interview, or you just want to chat? You have topics. You can bring topics. We'll figure out the logistics of getting it done. I would love to have people, random people I know, strangers even. I'm down with the funky shit. So let's make that happen anyway. It's getting late. I'm going to edit this shit, put it up so it's ready for tomorrow. And I will talk to you soon in a week. And I hope your New Year's is off to a great start. Happy New Year. I love you all.